Hello, and we're here for another
Oh,
episode of the Danny and Troy show.
shouldn't that be the Troy and Danny show? I mean, or we
Might,
could switch around, but
yeah,
people would get confused, right?
yeah. I thought this is the Danny Troy, not the Troy and Danny show. And then they switch off.
Ah, yep. The CIA came in and did a regime change, right?
Maybe.
Okay. You wouldn't know it anyway. They would just put, some old dumb man who likes ice cream, as a distraction for everybody while they're looking at him going, what the hell is that? While they're doing their stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we won't get into politics, of course. We'll just trim the edges a little bit. But this is number 2 of our second series. This one we call Right the Keel. And that's not spelled with a W. Nobody's asking you to write anybody, right? It means to write something is to bring it to its proper position.
Yep.
And of course, we're speaking metaphorically because we're using that as an example of getting our own lives straight, upright.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend one time, and she was talking about proper, and everything had to be proper.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, you must have spent some time in England, because everything has to be proper. And I turned her on her head one day, and I said, when I asked her, what does proper mean? Well, everybody knows. And it's like, oh, I see. Okay, I got it. So in this case, we're trying to properly right the keel. The keel, as probably one or two of you know, is on a boat, the part under the water, under the hull. It kind of keeps the sailboat, we should say that, upright. And, I made a couple of notes anticipating this speech, this discussion. And I'll just read them, and you tell me how they affect you.
Sure.
Okay. The first thing that came to mind was the phrase, "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're presuming that we are talking to captains, not first mates or any of those others, right? We presume that we're talking to people who are captains, who are, better yet, commanders. And who, because I don't think that if one person didn't consolidate all of the other talents of the other people on board, that maybe the ship would never get righted.
Right.
If somebody didn't, have one of these, it's a sign of a manager, right?
Okay.
Put that over there, put that over there, you three over here, this way, blah, blah, blah. Somebody to focus for everyone, like a conductor, right?
Sure.
To focus your talents and everybody's working together.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, we're speaking with commanders, we're speaking with captains.
Okay.
And we'll speak to them, you, like you are a captain. And that means that if anybody on board needs to know what needs to be done and where you're going, it's the captain. You've got a first mate, you've got all these other officers on board who follow the orders of the captain. And if the captain screws up, well, it's not a matter of they can blame him, but maybe the ship sinks with all hands on board, which is presumably not what we want. That we want for the ship to be upright. We want her to be in good sailing condition, sound hull, good sails, knowledgeable people. And as you may know, I'm sure you do, that like it says on my brother's boat, the rules are the captain is always right. Second one is, if the captain is not right, see rule number 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've seen that before, I'm sure, right? Kind of clever.
Yeah.
And that's the situation here. And why it's so important that captains just don't come on board. You know, they are responsible for, and their word is law, I guess, according to maritime law.
Sure.
And people must obey. If they don't obey, they can be guilty of mutiny, for instance, right? Or thrown in the brig because they're disobeying orders or whatever. And that principally means that there's one guy who's not in the crow's nest, who's telling everybody what he wants them to do. And I think that's the same way for our group of people, our philosophers and our business managers or business owners or whatever point of responsibility that you have to be a captain at many different levels. You know,
right?
You've been in the kitchen before with a chef, right?
Sure.
There's only one chef in the kitchen, and if you go against that, well, things just turn upside down.
Sure.
It's not a pretty picture.
Yeah.
And so, in line with our previous discussions, I would say that and I would love your take on this as well, that the worst condition that a captain can be in is a state of anxiety, or even worse, a state of panic.
Sure.
Because and I'll just use my own terminology, that old man shows one moment of not having his act together, everybody else can fall to pieces. Even when it looks like, you're going down, the captain must maintain his demeanor.
Yeah.
Right. Never let him know, never let him see his sweat, however it's expressed. And that's not only because we presume and may so often die because of his orders, but nevertheless, certain protocol must be met. And I think if you're going to have a captain, you pretty much must resolve for yourself that there's somebody who is in command when you are not.
Right.
Kind of like when all of those around you are losing their heads, keep yours, right?
Sure.
And I think that we can go a little bit deeper into that, but we're not looking to assign blame. That's not the angle we're looking at. The angle we're looking at is how to maintain your vision,
sure,
your duty, even when you're on the rocks.
Yeah.
Right. And that requires a lot of soul searching, a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of not focusing on yourself so much as on your ship, your shipmates, the cargo, right? And the ship's log and other things, so that other people will learn from your mistakes. And that's how we learn, as I understand. If we didn't make mistakes, we wouldn't learn anything.
Exactly.
So how do you how do you think about captains, Troy? If that was you're about to speak, don't let me load you up.
Yeah, no, I think from what we've been talking about in the past videos and episodes, it starts with this inner kind of voice or consciousness, this deeper, getting in touch with the awareness and being able to take direction from that, whether it's whatever you want to call it, like a higher power or the universe or the intelligent design. But not everybody is interested, I guess, perhaps, or is possibly able to consider that. And I mean, I've seen great captains, as an analogy, that seem to, have everything, whether they're in touch with this higher power intelligence, I'm not sure, but they have a real defined direction. They know where they want to go. They know what they want to do, and they express that openly, and that inspires others, and others go, yeah, I think that too. And in that way they become the captain of a ship, get people to come on board and say, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and then get the sail up and start sailing along. And I mean, you don't have to look too hard in history to see things succeed and things fail in terms of stories that can be told. So what is actually happening there is, like, an individual, I believe, is getting in touch. And this is just the theory or thoughts, but perhaps, that captain is being directed. Some thoughts came into their mind and said, okay, this is important to me and I got to go do this. And because of one reason or another, perhaps it's because it's so in line with this common consciousness, community consciousness, that kind of this fundamental energy that everything kind of bubbles up from, it's recognized by others. Someone else says, oh, I see what you're talking about, and I feel that too. And that's why they sign up and join the ship. And then, what happens from there is a multitude of possible directions and paths and adventures. I was talking yesterday to a good friend. I haven't spoken to him. I mean, we've chatted for nearly 3 years. A Bhutanese guy who worked at the Ministry of Health. One of the first projects I did when I came here to Bhutan was just to talk to them about their data management side of things, and I got to meet the ICT manager. And he found out that I was heading back to Australia, and he's like, okay, finally we got to have lunch together. We've been talking about this for more than 3 years. So come on, let's do it. So then he was telling me that he's kind of tired of the ship that he's been sitting in. I mean, it's a government job, and he's looking for something. I mean, it's been directed. He knows what to do each day, and it's pretty straightforward. And there's a little bit of thought and new things and a bit of adventure, but not that he thinks the ship is going down, but he wants to change. He wants to either be his own captain. That's what he was talking about, starting a company, and heading to Australia, and developing some business ideas, and taking the helm. And he came to me because I guess he saw me as a little bit closer, and this is what I guess we've been talking about and why we've been kind of the topic of the subject is around data science and doing your own thing, and me establishing the company Bhutan Data Scientists here. But I was telling him how it is a challenge once you take that route, especially when you do inspire others. In terms of Bhutan data scientists, I don't know how inspiring I have been, but I've had, up to 15 employees at one time. But I've never fired anyone. Every single one of the people have just decided to go do something else on another ship. And something, there's a message there for me. I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, it means that, I haven't been able to be that inspiring captain that people just, whether we're going down or whether we're going up, for people to continue to ride the boat. So yeah, we were talking about that and whether or not it's worthwhile, this change. And from my side, coming through the developments of companies and the inconsistency, or I guess it is kind of the adventurous side. You have to be willing to know, to be, or to not know whether or not there's going to be a paycheck this month or, in the next 3 months. And I think if I had it again, I'd be a little more kind of, and this is my advice to him, is to kind of just play his current position. So he's got a great job, a steady income, but he can do things on the side to set himself up to, feel it out, to set up a new company. He doesn't have to quit tomorrow and then jump headfirst into the ocean and try and find some tools and planks to build a boat. But to strategically kind of merge into something that makes sense and is, meeting his needs of being adventurous. But the first part is, finding that message, that letting the, just use the words, intelligence of the universe direct you without being. So that's your captain to start with. And then once you find and feel that you've been given the right leadership from that captain, then seek out for yourself. And then if there are others, mentors and people who have done it before, draw on inspiration from them.
And while you were talking, the idea came to me that my grandfather was a blacksmith.
Right.
And he also was a wheelwright.
Oh.
So when I say, write the keel, the word actually in a wheelwright, I think, is spelled with a W, 2 W's. And it means there's a lot of precision work involved.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do the hub, you've got to do the spokes, and then, you've got to do the rim. I have a rim that my grandfather made in my kitchen.
Wow.
That I hang, pots and pans from, just to keep myself in touch with the previous generations, right? Sure. And, making it hot and putting it on the rim and so on and so on. It's a profession. It's like a captain, really. A wheelwright is a very respected person, because the last thing you need is,
sure,
a wheel wobbling on your wagon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And for that, it's what a lot of people are missing these days, because there's not a lot of hands-on work,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is not doing the society a good turn. that if you, and I've been called, I'm a guy with golden hands. Okay. And it was because I love to work with my hands. And it means that the more we learn to do something, the easier it becomes, seemingly.
Yeah.
And that some of those other things that you did in the beginning that you had to think so precisely about, hand-eye coordination, if you're holding, a nail and you want to drive it into a piece of wood, it doesn't happen automatically. There's a thumb there too, which most people will attest to as, being the target sometimes. But once you have that down, then, or you're on a roof and you're doing a nail, you don't hold a nail like this on a roof because of a lot of reasons. You hold a nail like this on a roof. Because if you hold it like this, I guarantee you're going to get the thumb. Right? If you hold it like this, you've got a little bit of a cushion. You can slam these parts here. And of course it's tap, 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 wham, wham, wham. And then you learn that kind of stuff. So it becomes second nature. So it's a matter of, responding to the environment around you, what tools you're going to use, what other materials you need. It's a matter of control. It's a matter of becoming familiar with the language of the trade. Right? The more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it, the more you are steady and reliable in your profession. And this takes time.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, when they want to start a business, right?
Yeah.
Are in for a shock.
Sure.
And they have no idea what they're doing. They just, see themselves as, captain of a ship.
Yeah.
But they're still in the bathtub.
Right. Right.
And it takes a person who shall we call them a business right?
Okay.
Or have a business right mind, or indeed there's another takeoff, right? Right-mindedness, which I think can go back to Buddhism as well, right? Right. I even said right. That is a long process of tending to yourself.
Yes.
People, you have to start at the bottom. I don't care. You've got to, how quickly you learn, your hand-eye coordination, lots of other things are incorporated into what seems to be and something that some people do so easily. And that's because, they tried and failed. But the interesting thing is they keep trying.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to keep trying. It's like Edison said, I found 1,000 ways in which it doesn't work.
Sure.
Right. And he did not invent the light bulb either. He bought all of that.
Okay.
Anyway, not the big hero everybody thinks he is.
Yeah.
And then we have Tesla coming on board, right? And he managed it so that you've got Edison Electric in New York area, right? You've got all these, but it was DC versus AC, electrocuting elephants and things like that to prove one another wrong. You didn't have to do that, right? But nevertheless, it becomes lore, L-O-R-E, and that's part, like we were talking earlier about having folklore, right? which is, I'm sorry to say, seemingly absent. I wouldn't consider, I suppose if I were to consider a person of folklore, I would reach probably rather automatically for Steve Jobs, right? Or Edison or Henry Ford or whatever it is. And what is it that made those men captains?
Sure.
Right?
That's right.
It was an urge, to get it right. I think all three of those gentlemen principally did it until they got it right.
Yep.
And then when you get it right, when you know how to hold a tack on a roof, then you can move on, as opposed to thinking, I don't want to do it because I know I'm going to hit my thumb, and you sure as shooting you do. And it takes technique to, before you sail the vessel, it has to be upright.
That's right. Yeah.
Has to have the keel in the right place. And sometimes you've got to, lean over the side of the boat so the boat doesn't tip over into the water.
Yeah.
And these are all, I suppose, they become impulses of a captain.
I think this one. Yashna's breakfast.
Yum, yum.
Sunday, you going?
I'm going to drop her.
Okay.
She has a bus.
Right.
at 7:50.
Right.
Commercial interruption for
wanna-
Lay's potato chips.
It's Yashna and her friend. It's my friend. They don't want to be on camera.
They don't. Don't tell me that. Every woman is an exhibitionist.
Right.
And I think they would admit it. So, it's a matter of you have to know your science. You have to know the stars. You have to know how to treat your hands fairly and squarely. You have to know how to portray the image of command.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that most people who go into business have their keel right. And so, that means taking care of business for yourself. Are you a good captain? Do you want to be a captain? Do you know you want to be a captain? It's like the lion tamer, right? One day he sticks his head in the lion's mouth and the lion closes his mouth. And then the guy gets out of the hospital and somebody says, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to be a lion tamer.
That's right.
And the comment was, that guy really wants to be a lion tamer. Because it becomes kind of a personal thing, right? It becomes a part of a vision, part of completion of yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That embodies not just the trade that you're assuming, but also you can't fool yourself, and you cannot believe that you're going to sleepwalk right into it.
Sure.
There's that whole process of taking a bite of something, and before you swallow it, you have to chew it.
Yeah.
And the more it's chewed, the easier it is for the body to absorb the nutrients.
Yep.
And whatever metaphor we choose to talk about righting the keel, it's goes back to, what was it, Cool Hand Luke, where the prison guard is saying to Paul, he's saying, your mind right, boy?
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big scene.
Yeah.
And it in some ways, it addresses that rebellious part of ourselves, right? I think in some sense, in order to sail out into the ocean, you must be some kind of a, crazy guy.
Yeah.
Especially if, you're on board a three-master or something like that.
Right.
And you've got this little piece of wood that you're on, some canvas flopping in the breeze, and, and it may be a few seagulls and some other guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a dangerous situation, and squalls can come, and you can get swept away. And I think really and truly we've chosen that particular method of looking at it because it is a hazardous journey. And if you do it well and you get a lot of experience and make the right choices and care for yourself, writing your own keel, you principally are the boat,
Right.
right? And you two have a synergy. And it's the same thing with, a business idea. You want to discover the new world, like the old, it was that way a long time ago when they taught kids. Now we know differently.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to have that vision,
Mm-hmm.
that confidence, that burning desire. Think of all the steps. You don't just put on a hat and you're a captain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've got to, get funds from the Queen. You've got, blah, blah, blah. The Pope has his hand in it, blah, blah, blah. And then
Yep.
suddenly the rules they're playing with, other people on the other side don't know about, Catholicism and the Pope and
Mm-hmm.
the rules and all that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, the other great quote from
Complicated.
that movie, Cool Hand Luke, that comes to mind is where they say, "What we have here is a failure to communicate," and that is so deep as well. I mean, what we're talking about, if there is a failure to communicate, in terms of listening to the message, going back to what I was saying before about the intelligence design of the universe, and that's why I believe, there's some purpose that comes from deep thought or deep, whether it's meditation or reflection. I believe I'm here for a reason. I want to be the best data scientist I can ever be, and I focus on healthcare and cancer research. And I always have that. I can always go back to them. If I wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? I don't have to think about it. I know, I'm going to practice my art. My art is data science, and that can involve, actually getting in and writing some code or fixing a bug, or it can involve research and what's going on in the space, or going back to folklore and saying, okay, what's some stories that might be able to be integrated into what I'm going through, what I'm learning, and what I'm experiencing right now. And that, I think, is all to do with communication coming from the past, or these fundamentals of wisdom. If there's a failure to communicate there, I'm going to go, I'm feeling off today. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll just sleep until lunchtime and then see what happens. But when there's the communication's right, I'm up, I'm out, I'm talking to you at 6 a.m. and saying, okay, what's on the plate for discussion today? And then that's just with individually me. And then I get to talk to you, and it's communication between one and two people. Okay, do you get what I'm getting? I get what you're getting, and we're communicating, and we're a team. We've got our boat, and we're talking about where we want to go and how we're going to sail it. And then, beyond that, it's the people listening to the show. Do they agree? How do they feel? Are they wanting to be on board? And, can they draw inspiration from what we're saying? And who are their mentors? And where would they see themselves as a captain or a position on a ship? Who is the captain that's in their life right now? Is it themselves, or is it somebody else? And that's what, my friend Burju is his name, was saying yesterday. He's feeling like he's not the captain of his ship, and he's not sure where it's sailing, and he's wants to change direction.
Yep. I remember a friend of mine was telling me about after World War II in the Pacific, that there was a guy who was up for being promoted to admiral. And so he went and he sat in front of the panel, And the head of the panel said, you know, by every right, you deserve to be an admiral, but we're not going to promote you. And the guy said, well, why not if I have the right? And he said, well, because you did everything to keep all of your hands happy and productive. And he said, that's not right.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, you forgot one thing, is that you always have to give them a reason to complain,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Meaning, I think in some ways, you know, they must be hungry. They must, you can't
Right.
just, you know, spoon feed them.
Exactly. I get it.
There's got to be something, some drive in them that needs to be
Sure.
awakened.
Sure.
And you see that quite often, you know, it's like swab the deck.
Mm-hmm,
And it's like, but you don't want to say the deck is already clean. It's the activity that
Sure.
you have been
That's right.
assigned.
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
So do it and don't
Mhm,
question so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying be a robot, right? But
Sure.
there are lots of different ways in which to inspire people, because eventually if and when they become their own captain,
Yeah.
they're going to remember
Right.
a lot of things that happened to them that weren't so pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a yellow brick road,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and staying on top of it and just having a set of rules for yourself first,
Right.
to maintain your own sense of order.
Great. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know why you're doing it, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that especially a captain must know. If he doesn't, then he's going to, you know, end up with his ship on the shoals,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know,
Yeah.
beached somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's a certain amount of caution that has to be taken. But I just want to, and I think I'm finished saying what I want to say, but I do want to say in summary, one last thing is that, you know, you are the captain of your soul, right? You are the
Right.
captain of your
Mhm.
ship,
Mm-hmm.
of your body. And when that extends itself to a vessel outside of the one that you live in,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like looking in a mirror, right? Because that ship, that business, like for your friend, right, is
Yeah.
him.
Right.
And he can launch it too soon before the hull is finished.
Sure.
And we know where that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have to go back, do it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's a lesson, I think, that is not being taught enough today.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, a joke they make about why teachers make such good lovers
Oh.
is because they make you do it until you get it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think for me, it's drawing on that kind of inner message and being, yeah, finding whether you're ready or you want to be captain of your own ship. I think everybody should be, but yeah, and from that space, look for inspiration. It doesn't mean then you forget everything that's around you and you just kind of, yeah, go launch too early, but to draw inspiration of those that perhaps are inspiring to you. And you know, that's where the data aspect comes in, or gathering information. So gather information about, once you got your direction and your desire and what you want to do, figure out what's there to help. Bye. They're going now. Have a good day.
Got their masks on, I see.
Yeah. And yeah, that's where I think the expansion comes, is drawing upon those that perhaps have done it before, and you can get advice on saying, okay, is my ship ready to be launched? And then,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, they may say yes, they may say no, and what you do after that is totally up to you. You can still launch it because it's not truly something, you know, this is from my personal experience, until you launch a ship yourself where the hull is half built. Of course, it's very, you know, obvious when you in this analogy it's going to sink, but you've never experienced it. And then until you launch a ship that's only got half a hull and it sinks, then you know, oh yeah, everybody that told me it was going to sink was right.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I built a submarine.
Wow.
I built a sailboat,
Yeah.
and I built a concrete boat like the Romans used to do.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was my my background. You know, then I became a scuba diver, and you know, licensed. What is it? Anyway, a swimmer, all the grades, you know, that you have there. What was it? To qualify, water safety instructor. That was the highest level I got to. Yep, WSI. And love the water, but you know, it's a dangerous place.
Sure.
It's unforgiving. And we're talking about launching a ship, and not one word about where we are launching it. We can launch it in the creek.
Right.
We can launch it in, you know, Dr.
Right.
Tommy's pond.
Right.
But when you start, you know, and take your time, learn your way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The impact.
Because you don't want to take that sucker to the ocean.
No.
Right. When you're not ready for it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
So that's how we write the kiln, write the sail.
Right. We train our captain. Right. We pass as much knowledge as we have over that we can. Yep. And people learn by doing, not by, you know, listening to someone talk to them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that's very important in this process, is to help the person realize what it's going to take. And so they can ask themselves, do they have what it takes to do the job? Right. And this, of course, is a great test of one assessing one's own abilities. Right.
Sure.
You know, because you may have to say, I'm a landlubber.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not a sea dog. No, I can't do that. You know, but it's and there's nothing wrong with not being a captain. You know, you and I talked about this thing at Stockholm School of Economics in Riga. You know, where a guy from WEF is coming to at the recommendation of the school, and they want to turn the school into creating entrepreneurs, thinking that you know, every class has a Tom Cruise in it, and that everybody in that class is Tom Cruise. Is like, no, they are not. We're, you know, this day we're talking about, oh, people get offended, they get hurt or whatever, and it's like, you know what? That's sort of like become a pacifier in people's mouths.
Right.
But when somebody whacks you in the mouth and that pacifier is in there, I think the first thing you do is spit it out.
Sure. You
know, so part of it is realizing that if you're lucky, you've got a Tom Cruise in your class, or as an entrepreneur, let's say, and he's a great entrepreneur. That's different. But all the other people in that class are necessary to stoke the boiler, right? To rig the sails, to
exactly.
Navigate to whatever. It takes the whole crew, and there's nothing shameful about not being Tom Cruise.
Well, my thoughts are, if you want to do, I mean, as one individual, I can only go so far with my ship, my direction, my understanding of what I want to do. But when I join a team, a crew, I don't have to be the captain. I can contribute with everything, with my direction, and that's when, the outcome, the expansion of the possible outputs are magnified. So that's what, that next level is to join a team, join a crew, come together and communicate. Of course, there will be failures, but learn from that communication failures and write them. And take it to a level where you're not just an individual anymore. And I think, you don't have to, like you're saying, be the captain of that, but be the captain of your own ship and be, a team player wherever possible, because that's where true and massive results can come.
You must be seaworthy.
And be seaworthy, get your sea legs on.
Right. Yep. And they're all sizes of ships.
Sure.
You can be a captain and a swimmer of the swim team.
Oh yeah.
You can do parachute surfing. You can surf on a board. You can be in the water and on a paddle board.
Yeah.
Right? All different things. You don't have, to be captain of a aircraft carrier.
That's right.
To be a captain.
Sure.
It depends.
Exactly.
It depends. Exactly. Wonderful. Troy, I think I'm going to call it quits for tonight. And then our next discussion is around navigation.
All right.
Right.
Great.
So we trying to keep the theme somewhat constant to keep people's attention. But let's see, presuming we've got our keel right.
Yep.
And the ship is upright and we're all rigged and ready to go. And then we have to consider some of the aspects of how do we get there? How do we navigate this vessel that we are on and that we are captain of? Exactly. And that means what I would like to discuss next time is what is navigation?
Sure.
Right. And how do we utilize it and why is it necessary?
Yep.
Things like that.
No, I love it. Deal? Things are coming to my mind already.
Good. Then you can open it next time.
Okay.
Because you're doing quite well here. You taking a microphone right away from me, and I don't mind. Not at all. I like to hear what you talk about. Okay.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Troy. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.